Hey everybody, Redman Gamer here, back with another card grading video. Today we're going to be talking about CGC versus PSA, and I think this is a topic that I've actually been wanting to kind of dive into a little bit here now for a few weeks. So thanks for jumping in. Feel free to like and subscribe to this channel. I do a lot of these videos just because I really enjoy this hobby. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So today we're going to be looking at it strict kind of from the Pokemon standpoint, because I find it interesting. It's an interesting look, but a lot of the comments that I have to say about this definitely carry over to sports cards as well. So, I think it kind of it's kind of good to go back and reflect on how we got here. And, last year in March when PSA shut its doors down, and because it was being completely flooded with submissions, we started to see a lot of these other competitors to PSA suddenly start to emerge and actually begin to kind of take prevalence. And I think that we haven't, prior to that, PSA was the undisputed champion. And in some respects, I still think PSA is still the place to go. I mean, I think they still have a strong foothold in industries like sports cards and things like that. But that is changing. I mean, until they get caught up with their grading, I think still the only way to submit cards to PSA is if you submit to their high dollar service expenses, and they're like $150 or $200 express route, and that's a little bit out of my price range for submitting cards, but and I think that's where you have these stories about CGC or HGA or SGC suddenly becoming more mainstream. And I think it's interesting. I think it's a very exciting time to be in the industry, but it's also a time to be cautious. It's a time to be cautious and careful about how you're grading your cards. Don't just necessarily jump in because this company is available. Think it through. These cards don't come out of these sleeves very easily, these slabs easily. We want to make sure that you submit it to the right company correctly so that it doesn't end up in the wrong slab at the wrong time. So anyway, what I wanted to do today was I wanted to talk about CGC versus PSA and actually do a little overview, kind of a comparison between the two, apples and oranges, and just kind of share some of my thoughts. So these are going to be my thoughts. Feel free to chime in with your opinions as we go along. But PSA, as if you've been watching some of my other videos, you've heard me kind of preach about their label has consistently been the point of pain for me. It's iconic. It's very easy to distinguish a PSA label from across the room, and that's a good thing. But there's also, I think, opportunity to improve. So maybe we can kind of dive into that a little bit here. So obviously we've got the red stripe. That's the kind of with the white center. I mean, that's the kind of the big thing that just jumps out. They've got this, silver seal that they use, to kind of really it adds a little bit of security protection, counterfeit protection to the slab, but also gives it a distinct look. If you look at the back of the card, you've got this QR code, you've got, again, another barcode, another, product serial here. You've got this holographic thing, which a terrible scan of this, but it's kind of a holograph security check. And then again, another silver PSA look. The back of this card is actually fine. I'm cool with this. I don't know why we still use barcodes. I don't think anything reads these except maybe internal PSA stuff. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I do know phones read this, so that's cool. I'm fine with that. We probably don't need this. No, that's just my 2 cents. But PSA is really wasting a lot of real estate space on their label with this old barcode here and this product ID lookup here. I don't think they're necessary. I don't think these need to be on the front. If you look over at CGC, one of the things that a lot of people like are obviously subgrades. That's one of the things that jumped right out. Is, CGC offers subgrades, and I'm a huge fan of subgrades. It tells me exactly why a card got the score that it got the score. Especially helpful when you get an 8.5 and you're like, what the heck? Why did I get an 8.5? Well, it tells you, and you can do the math yourself, and you can kind of justify it a little bit. So that's always helpful. But when you're looking at PSA, you have no space to put stuff like that. I've always been a firm believer that subgrades could go on the back of the card. So while I appreciate all these security counterfeit features that they incorporate here, why not put them out here? I think PSA needs to grow up and start putting subgrades out here, and this would be a perfect space to put it right here. Just axe that, get rid of it, and, you know, do it here. Just my 2 cents. But, you know, what we need to do is, you know, again, just kind of looking at this, if they clean this, if they remove this section down here, which I hope my mouse is like showing up on this. It just occurred to me. Is my mouse tracking on this? Yeah, okay, good. Just making sure. All right. So, you know, what we need to make sure though is that this right here, or, you know, what they could do is they could take this out and they'd have a 4th section. Because if you look at cards in general, they got Charizard, Pokemon, that's a set, subset, and then maybe some details about that card. All that information could go right here, but because this label or this little button, I don't know what you want to call it, button, is sticking here, it's in the way. I'd personally take it out. There's no, I mean, it looks cool, but there's no point. There's no point in it being right there. If anything, put it down here on the slab itself. You know, brand the slab a little bit more. I don't care. Maybe I do care about that. I actually like the way that showcases this card, but just get rid of it. I mean, this is even the red and the white label is fine because, again, it's iconic, but this whole thing, even the font needs to be, you know, put smaller, made a little bit nicer. Again, 2 cents, take it for what you will. But going over to CGC, let's talk about CGC for a minute. I think that one of the things that immediately steps out about CGC is how starkly different the label looks. You've got, you know, that vibrant blue. I mean, it's like a complete contrast to red and white, just like whatever, we're doing it this way, which is really cool. And, you know, CGC, you know, immediately picked up some street cred because it comes from the comic book grading, you know, background. And if you think about it, you know, why wouldn't it take off for something like Pokemon cards? You know, with PSA, you know, it's got a long-standing history with sports cards, so it's going to be hard to kind of unseat that as the definitive, the de facto like grading company in people's minds because it's already there. Whereas over here, this has been more kind of associated with things like comics and stuff like that. So, especially for Pokemon, you can see why it's a very tempting candidate for taking your cards and getting them graded. But one of the things I have kind of noticed with this is that for a grading services company that focuses on judging your centering, judging the quality of your cards, I cannot get over the fact that the centering of their own grading is so wildly off. Like, here it is to the right, here it is to the top, here it is to the left and still off centered, and here it is again to the top and a little bit off to the left. It's like, come on. This is painful to look at. Just, you know, because if the whole industry, the whole business is about centering cards and, you know, showing how nice this is. This label, this is inexcusable. I'm sorry, this is just inexcusable. I said it. Deal with it. So that is my biggest gripe with CGC. Everything else about CGC is actually pretty good. I'm not, you know, they've got this counterfeit, you know, holographic label up top, which some of these pictures showed a little bit better. They've got this, you know, special edition for 10 point, you know, for their pristine 10s. Not sure. I didn't know it could get it pristine with a 9.5, but it did. So that's good. That's interesting. But yeah, and then even on the back, so let's look at the back for a second. So, you know, we have the QR code here, QR code here. Again, another barcode. Why are we using barcodes? I don't get it. You know, the subgrades could go back on here. Again, I keep saying this. I'll say it so I'm blue in the face. These don't need to be on the front. These can go on the back. And honestly, I'm sick to death of seeing eBay sellers or anybody who's like selling cards not taking pictures of the back of their slab. I care. You know, I want to see what's on the back. So this would be a perfect space to put that kind of stuff. There's nothing here. This is like just empty. So it would look a lot better, a lot cleaner if they just took all this off the front, moved it to the back, and then you'd have just this text information on the front. It would look super slick. And if they centered this, I think CGC version 2, because these companies come out with version 2s all the time. This is PSA v3. When they come out with version 2, CGC version 2, I think if they follow some of these guidelines and moving the subgrades to the back, or at least centering their pristine labels, or just giving more space around here, I think that's really going to bring CGC into a strong candidate. The last thing that I had as a comment was regarding the slab itself. So I love PSA slabs. Just to be clear, I think they're the best in terms of size. They're just a great fit. They hold the card really well. They don't shake around. CGCs, they can shake. They jostle a little bit. So just kind of know that, depending on the size of the card. And I don't think the card is going to get damaged at all. It's just know that they can jostle a little bit. But they're also completely see-through. And at first impression, it looks really cool. But then if you put your slabs into like a sleeve protector, you can see right behind that, and you can see the tape right on the other side from the front. So maybe not so good. Anything behind it, you can see that too. So just know that. That's maybe the one downside about having a completely transparent, completely see-through, but it does look nice. So that's just the two differences that I have kind of picked out between these two in terms of just the slab casing itself. But anyway, those are just my thoughts on CGC versus PSA. I'm not going to say that one is better than the other, because I don't think you can make claims or statements about that without being straight up a fanboy. But I do think that both of them have some merit. I think both of them are good in certain situations. And so it's just one of those things where you're going to have to make a choice for yourself, what's right for you. And it's like, don't just rush into making a choice to put your cards just because PSA is not accepting things right now, and accepting submissions that, with the exception of the 150 and 200, don't just dismiss them. But at the same time, CGC can be a very good option for you, maybe. And that's the whole point of these videos, is to kind of give you a little bit more context of what these two have to offer, and, so you can make a better choice when you're trying to grade your set. So hopefully these videos are helpful. I'll continue to put out videos when I have some time, but again, like, subscribe if you enjoy this, and appreciate you watching. Take care. Cheers.